We know this is a scam world. We have seen across everywhere the online scams are going on. And the challenge in front of gambling industry is making money while preventing the harms. So we have seen that gambling becomes more accessible through mobile apps and faster technology. What is the single most effective safeguard that operators must implement to protect players without compromising the entertainment experience? So one main safeguard what operators have to do.
So that's a really important question, and I'll throw it to Sarah on some of her opinions on the technicalities of this. But from a government, from a government standpoint, I think what we want to make sure is that you don't have lawmakers or politicians making these types of decisions. I mean, it really needs to be data driven. And as I said, the challenge here is that we're in uncharted waters. The choice we were faced with regulating this framework wasn't that long ago. And we were one of the first in the world to do it, the first in the country to do it. And we're seeing other provinces think of following suit, Alberta being the most relevant example at this moment. And so what that means is, I think, as we make these decisions and we try and rein things in, like advertising changes would be an example of that, we have to keep adapting. And what we have to do as policymakers is make sure that the resources are available for those with the expertise are able to make those informed decisions. I know, Sarah, I'm sure you have some opinions on the question, but thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
The number one most important safeguard is prevention.
Yes.
So getting ahead of it. We know that the numbers are concerning right now, in particular in regards to young men, and that is exactly why RGC exists. So I appreciate your question. Our vision is a world where gambling never comes at a human cost. And so we want to be able to move from that awareness piece to actionable behavior that actually changes to build those safeguards before the harm actually takes root, right? So we know that 19 to 24-year-old males are at that significant risk because of online gambling and all of those components I mentioned with the 24/7 access. And so what we have to be able to do is design programs like the PSI, but to be able to reach those young men in advance, give them the tools to be able to notice those physical signals, make sure they understand how gambling works, and then be able to use those tools to prevent harms. So it really is all about prevention. And the trends in the market right now with young men really prove that we can't afford to just be static. We have to continue to evolve strategies. We need to be able to move at the same pace of the market, and we need to be able to ensure that innovation is not faster than that prevention work.
Since there are so many fake websites of the gambling, because earlier scams we heard, but now as the gambling became famous when governments also got involved, and we had seen that fake websites of the gambling are there. And when the Canadians, when they click, and they are being scammed by those. So what is that preventive measure any federal or the provincial ministry can do? Because the harm, if one is scammed, the harm is already done. Because proactively, what steps can ministry do so that if they can ministry block those websites before so that no one got scammed? Because gambling is something which is already gambling and then scammed over that. So it is a serious concern.
And so, it's actually the motivation for regulating the framework. So when it comes to operators who operate legally within that framework, you introduce strict regulations for them and voluntary self-exclusion, limits on advertising, Play Smart program, of course, our RG check accreditation. But you're asking about those who don't operate in that legal space, and that would be a crime. Right? I mean, when you're operating illegally outside of a framework, you're operating essentially criminally and would be subject to all of the sort of consequences as a result of that. And we won't shy away from that. I mean, if you're operating illegally and causing people harm in this province, you will be subject to criminal prosecution. So we just want to make sure that those who are the good actors are operating responsibly, and we're creating thoughtful regulation around that and following the leadership of entities that are doing great work, whether it's the OLG or of course, Responsible Gambling Council. But, for those who are operating illegally, that is a different story, and we will make sure that we go after them to the full extent of the law.
Yeah, thank you. You want to add something on this? Yes.
Sure. I think the one thing to add is that prevention programming reaches players wherever they are and however they're playing. So we want to be able to, again, have programming that really gets to people in the space that they need. And so in which case, however they play, the prevention provides that. Increase in their knowledge of gambling harm risks. This ensures a visible counterbalance to gambling marketing that is happening today. Second part of that, the really impactful part, 12% of viewers also confirmed that they made a concrete plan for safer gambling after seeing our messaging. This is truly evidence of prevention in action. We also increased our reach during the big games. We know that sports betting surges, of course, during major events. Our big game strategy met players in those high intensity moments. During Super Bowl 59, we reached an estimated 121 million people with messages designed to interrupt the urge to play out of impulse. We also focused on cultural precision. Prevention only works if it's actually relatable and culturally grounded. Through our ethnocultural initiatives, we reached 1.49 million people in partnership with Caribbean Vibrations TV. And through Soch Mental Health, we've engaged over 1,800 individuals in person at places of worship and cultural events. So reach is one thing, but it's not the only thing, and it's only part of the equation. Long-term sustainability is our goal. By using a train-the-trainer model, RGC is building lasting prevention capacity directly within communities with 4 different languages. And we are seeing the impact of this trust-based approach. Participants are reporting not only a significant increase in awareness, but also a greater openness to discussing treatment and reducing the stigma that surrounds it. This is how we ensure that our safety net is both inclusive and built to last. On a note with that digital safety net, our always on search campaign is that literal safety net. When someone in Ontario searches for help, we are there immediately. In the last year alone, we saw 5,773 click-throughs on our support tools, with an engagement rate 10 times higher than the industry average. These users stayed on our page 2.5 times longer than the averages, and they are high intent individuals finding the help they need in real time. Perhaps the most vital work we are doing is with the next generation. We are seeing a normalization of gambling in the digital lives of youth, and we piloted our student athlete training across Ontario schools. The results were immediate. 92% of students gained critical knowledge on how to access help, and 100% of our pilot facilitators recommend the program. This resource is already starting to scale, with 28 organizations and schools accessing the training since just December, and we look forward to its continued growth and scaling. While this work is significant, we must recognize that it's still in its infancy. These are not static programs. They are living, breathing initiatives that we need to constantly refine based on the data that we collect. The RAGF has allowed us to build the foundation, and we can now scale these successes, expanding our youth protection, and deepening our community partnerships. Sustained investment is what allows us to stay ahead of the curve. It ensures that gambling innovation never outpaces the safety of the people of Ontario. I want to thank the ministry for their courage in supporting an evidence-led, people-first approach. We are incredibly grateful for the province's partnership in this shared mission. And to speak more about the Ontario government's ongoing commitment to prevention.
The tasks at the time that the Minister of Finance gave me was look at iGaming, where it is in an unregulated market, and is it worth the government getting involved in regulating this market? And the answer was a resounding yes. And the reason for that was we saw where the trends were heading. We saw that online gaming was growing. and that it was going to grow in a big way, and it wasn't a passing fad. It was here to stay. And so the government of the day, us, we sat down long and hard, looked at the data, and I remember what pushed me over the edge to make the recommendation to the Minister of Finance that we need to regulate this market. I heard a story about this young man who was gaming in the unregulated market, and he had lost quite a lot of money. In fact, he lost his house, and he wanted to quit, and he was on one of the gaming sites, and he called the 1-800 number for some help, and he couldn't reach anybody. And when he did, he was rerouted halfway around the world to Lithuania, where he certainly couldn't get the help that he needed. That was the moment that I recommended to the minister that we needed to regulate this market, and we did. And, last year was the first year that total wagering online surpassed land-based wagering, and we're not going back. This is a permanent trend. And so what I am proud to say is we have partners like Sarah and the RGC who are doing exactly what we hope that they would do, which is to help those with problem gambling issues and help them in a very meaningful way. And you saw Sarah go through some of those very specific initiatives and some of the very specific results and the data. That's what I love about hanging out with Sarah, is that when we had our first conversations a couple of years ago, I could tell she was data-driven, and I could tell she was results-oriented. And that was the whole purpose of this, right? We could just stand here and say, yes, since 2018, our government's invested $200 million into responsible gambling initiatives. We can, point to big numbers like $214 million from iGaming, Ontario operators, as well as the OLG. But it doesn't mean anything when you put these numbers into something and you don't have the results to show for it. And Sarah, in that report that you talk about, I think some of the most meaningful numbers that I saw, you said that 12% made a plan to prevent their problem gambling habits. That is meaningful action. You had 28 schools participate in the pilot program. Every single one of them said that they would do it again. 62% of student athletes now know how to access help. I think these are very meaningful results. And what I also love, Sarah, is that you talk about reaching people in the culturally appropriate means to reach specific cultures. We all know that different cultures look at gaming in different ways. And so we have to speak to them quite literally in the language that they understand to reach them in a meaningful way. That's the system working, isn't it, right? And this may shock you, but government doesn't get everything right all the time. But when you're in uncharted waters like this, and Ontario, I want to be clear, is very much a leader when it comes to online gaming. And you could see Alberta following our lead. In fact, that's a global trend when it comes to online gaming and the helps that are required to support those with problem gambling. But what I am proud to stand here and say is that I believe we are on the right track. And I believe with leadership from RGC and Sarah, that this is something that the world will look to and say, let's see what Ontario is doing. And I'm proud of that. Because some of you may not know this, but the reason this file also means so much to me is that I have a very deeply personal tie to what online gaming can do, and it's a family-related issue. And so, I understand what families go through, what individuals go through when they have issues with problem gambling, and how meaningful initiatives like this and the PSA that we're about to listen to have directly to the people.
As the landscape of online gambling and sports betting continues to evolve rapidly, we are seeing a significant normalization of gambling behaviors, particularly among young men. Online gambling introduces risks that are really different from land-based play: 24/7 access across multiple devices, accelerated speed of play, and a much higher isolation factor. Our new 2026 PSA is designed to specifically target young adult males aged 19 to 24. This campaign is made possible through the RIGF and the incredible partnership of Canada's broadcasters, some of which are here today. As we launch the new PSA, we are also celebrating that ongoing partnership with Canada's broadcasters. Building on our shared history, they have donated a cumulative total of approximately $100 million in broadcast media inventory since the launch of the regulated market. Not such a long time. This sustained commitment ensures that while the market evolves, our prevention messages continue to actually reach Canadians. Building on that massive broadcast foundation, we are extending our reach digitally to meet young people exactly where they are and where they need it across platforms like Netflix, Spotify, and Meta. Most importantly, this campaign goes beyond just raising awareness. Every piece of content drives audiences to a dedicated online hub, providing practical information on accessing support resources and connecting people directly to local treatment options within their communities. Our goal is to provide an essential layer of balance alongside widespread marketing. We want to give young adults the guidance they need to make informed, safer choices before they find themselves in a moment of risk. To reach this audience effectively, we had to meet them in their world, a world of hustle culture, where shortcuts and digital hacks for financial freedom are normalized and celebrated. For many young men, iGaming is not just play, it is a high-stakes attempt to outsmart the system. We know from our research that the real risk lives in the frictionless world of online gambling. In this world, it is incredibly easy to slide from making a conscious choice to simply chasing a feeling. Our creative strategy focuses on one specific universal cue, that moment where your chest starts pumping and your heart starts racing. Research shows that when a player's heart is beating fast, it is a simple, undeniable signal that they are playing out of feeling rather than choice. Our moment of reflection is about naming that feeling, because if you can name it, you can interpret it. We are not here to lecture or judge. We are here to help them notice that turn in their own body, take a beat, interrupt it before the risk skyrockets.